Important literary terms and their proponents Part 2. Structures of Feeling by Raymond Williams. Optopia by Joanna Russ. Negative Capability by John Keats. Anxiety of Incompleteness by Sigmund Freud. Gynocriticism by Lena Showalter. Theatre of the Absurd by Martin Esslin. 4 Ages of Poetry by Thomas Love Peacock. Movement Poetry by J.D. Scott. Stream of Consciousness by William James. Sonnet by Thomas Wyatt. Horizon of Expectations by Hans Robert Jauss. Pathetic Fallacy by John Ruskin. Tertia Rima by Thomas Wyatt. Blank Verse in English Poetry by Surrey. Blank Verse in English Drama by Thomas Norton and Thomas Sackville. Rhyme Royal by Geoffrey Chaucer. Temperance Novel by Walt Whitman. Victorian Compromise by G.K. Chesterton. Augustan Age by Dr. Samuel Johnson. Irregular Ode or Pindaric Ode by Abraham Cowley. Jazz Age or the Roaring 1920s by Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald. Heteroglossia by Mikhail Bakhtin. Polyphony by Mikhail Bakhtin. The Gulf War Did Not Take Place by Jean Baudrillard. Hermeneutics of Suspicion by Paul Ricoeur. Decolonizing the Mind by Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Power Knowledge by Michel Foucault. The Medium is the Message by Marshall McLuhan. Chutney Fiction by Salman Rushdie. Cultural Industry by Theodore Adorno and Max Horkheimer. Hybridity by Homi Bhabha. Biopower by Michel Foucault. Panopticon by Jeremy Bentham. Care for the Self by Michel Foucault. Aporia by Derrida. American Dream by James Truslow Adams. Deconstruction by Jacques Derrida. Objective Correlative by T.S. Eliot. Feminism by Charles Fourier. Poulter's Measure by George Gascoigne. Comic Inferno by Kingsley Amis. Problem Place by Sidney Grundy. Gilded Age by Mark Twain. Beat Generation by Jack Kerouac. Comedy of Menace by Irving Waddell. Queer Theory by Teresa de Lauretic. Outer Form and Inner Form by Renee Welleck and Austin Warren. Orientalism by Edward Said. Lost Generation by Gertrude Stein. Essay by Montaigne. Dialogic by Mikhail Bakhtin. Globalization by Theodore Levitt. Dissemination by Jacques Derrida. Anxiety of Influence by Harold Bloom. Affective Stylistics by Stanley Fish. Anti-Novel by Charles Sorrell. Metaphysical Poets by Dr. Samuel Johnson. Cogito, Ergo Sum, I Think, Therefore I Am by René Descartes. Freudian Slip by James Strachey. Oedipus Complex by Sigmund Freud. Affective Fallacy and Intentional Fallacy by Womsit and Beardsley. Subaltern by Antonio Gramsci. Egotistical Sublime by John Keats. Satanic School of Poetry by Robert Southey. Postmodernism by John Watkins Chapman and later by J. M. Thompson and Arnold Toynbee. Intersectionality by Homi K. Bhabha. Language is Oppression by Michel Foucault. Transmodernism by Enrique Dussel. New Aesthetic by James Bridle. Post-Contemporary by Primo Levi. Grand Narrative and Little Narratives by Jean-François Lyotard. Womanism by Alice Walker. New Enlightenment by Derrida. Serendipity by Horace Walpole. Organic Intellectual by Antonio Gramsci. New Historicism by Stefan Greenwald. Negritude by Amy Césaire and Leopold Senghor. Existentialism by Soren Kierkegaard. Post-Minimalism by Robert Pincus Witten. Only Connect by E. M. Forster. And Cubism by Louis Vauxelles.